I'm here with Trista Friesen. She's the grade 5-6 teacher from Rouleau School, and they're learning a lot in their social studies class. Well, she's teaching a lot in their social studies class. They're bringing awareness and a call to action to end drinking water advisories on reserves. And so I thank you so much for joining me today to tell me about the things that you've been learning here in Miss Friesen's class. Cameron, Reese, and Kira, and then, of course, teacher Trista Friesen. Cameron, can you tell me what is the First Nations water crisis?
So the First Nations water crisis is something we've been learning in class from articles and from a guest speaker named Dion Hassler. So to start, the First Nations water crisis is something that Indigenous people have been facing for decades. Having direct sanitation is a basic human right, but some Indigenous people are not being provided with the proper sanitation. These communities have been forced to drink from unsafe drinking water advisories containing mass amounts of different contaminants. Specifically, these contaminants are viruses, bacteria, and chemical pollutants. These harmful contaminants can and do lead to cancer and other diseases. This crisis is a harm to countless Indigenous communities. Numerous communities have to boil their water before drinking it to ensure that they are preventing germs and diseases from spreading into their bodies. Lastly, the Canadian government committed to ending all drinking water advisories in 2015. However, it is now 2022, and there are still 51 long-term drinking water advisories because of broken promises and unreliable commitments.
Wow, I've already learned a lot listening to you, Cameron. Reese, why is clean water inaccessible to many Indigenous communities?
Well, clean water is inaccessible to many Indigenous communities because there's an enormous amount of viruses in it. And to start, Dion Hassler said that there are a lot of viruses and not enough minerals in their water. And from the article, Lack of Clean Drinking Water in Indigenous Communities, there's bacteria, viruses, chemical pollutants, and parasites that cause diseases and human health problems. And secondarily, with non-clean drinking water, it can potentially lead to high risk to human health. This has been a problem for decades, and if this keeps continuing, then it could lead to more Indigenous communities getting diseases and health problems. Lastly, another problem with clean water in Indigenous communities is that the people who design their water plants don't necessarily design them for how they need it. Plus, these people need teachers to train them how to properly design water plants for Indigenous communities.
And Kira, how does this affect Indigenous communities?
According to Dion Hassler and Lack of Clean Drinking Water in Indigenous Communities, an article that we read, it affects Indigenous communities partially as a result of colonialism and the forced relocation of places where there is not a lot of safe, clean water to drink. Firstly, Indigenous people recognize the sacredness of their water and how they have to protect their water from pollution, drought, and waste. Secondly, when their systems break, the cost to fix it is usually pretty high, and they can't afford that, so they can't fix it. And when they get their water, they can't just drink it as we do. They have to boil it every single time. And some people get so tired of doing that they just drink it, which makes them really, really sick. Water is really important because we need water to survive. And water is the giver of all life, so without safe, clean water to drink, all life will perish.
And water, a basic human need. Everyone deserves clean drinking water, don't they? Thank you, ladies. Well, Trista, what can we do?
For sure, there's a few different things that we can do as Canadians. The first thing is to get educated. It's so important to realize that this is an issue in Canada, and there are people here that don't have a basic human right. So that's the first step. If you want to go further, my class did this week. We sent letters to Justin Trudeau calling him to act on his promise that he made in 2015 to end all long-term boil water advisories. And then if you want to take it one step further, there are some really awesome foundations that you can donate to. Specifically, Dion Hassler, our guest speaker, he's involved with some different foundations. And when you donate to them, they put that money towards training water plant operators because they are the key people in making their community's water safe to drink. So some of those foundations are the Saskatchewan First Nations Water Association, as well as the Safe Drinking Water Foundation. So any donations will go towards helping communities have that clean, safe drinking water.
Thank you so much. We will be putting the links to those foundations in this story. It's boy, you're doing such a great job with these kids and bringing up all of these very important issues that mean a lot to the people in our community and, of course, the Indigenous community. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today, teaching me something. And yes, this call to action, it's definitely needed. Promises were made and they haven't been kept, so we got to keep them to his promises. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for having us. It's an honor and such a privilege that we get to have this way to educate others and to share what we've been learning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.